Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Dennis. Welcome to Patinacode. This is So You Want to Build an AD.
I'm cold right out, I'm done. Come on.
Hello, everybody, and thank you once again for tuning in for this edition of So You Want to Build an AD, powered by LS Fabrication. This is actually episode 3 in this series, and today we're going to have a look at how disassemble the chassis as far as getting the leaf springs off the front and the rear of the truck, removing the rivets. I'm going to show you how I went about doing that, and then removing the cab from the chassis. So we're getting closer to where we end up with episodes in here, and then the real work starts. So you're getting a look at the past, and right now you're seeing the future, right? So we're going to catch up. It's going to be like a time warp, right? So without further ado, let's just hop right into this episode where we disassemble the chassis. We're going to be disassembling the suspension on our AD truck, and it's fairly easy to do. It's just some simple steps, and this is the way that I prefer to get the rivets out of the shackles for the leaf springs that are attaching the suspension to the truck. Now, the best way for me to remove the rivets from these shackles are taking the cutoff wheel and slicing right below the rivet head. Why not just go in with the grinder? Well, you're going to be on the little hump at the top of the rivet, and you got to grind that down. So starting off with the grinder, the angle grinder's turning at a high rate of speed, and it's hard to stay steady on that rounded part until it gets flat enough for you to continue grinding. Plus, it just wears out the grinding wheel. The cutoff wheel is slender enough to fit right there against the frame and the bottom of the head of the rivet, and you can slice right across it. Then you come back across with the grinder to make sure you got the shoulders of the rivet head off, and then you would go behind that with the punch, knocking it through with the baby sledge. Now we're going to just get into the back, then we're going to move to the front, and then we'll get this thing on the asphalt and completely remove the suspension from the truck. We don't want to do it here in the gravel. We're going to need a set of jack stands to support the chassis, and then drop the leaf spring hangers, and then we'll have our chassis free of the suspension, and then from there we'll go about disassembling the cab. But right now, let me get into working on getting the rear of this truck cleaned off as far as the leaf springs go. Look at the rivet, it's rounded. I prefer not to start off on the rounded edge. You'll get the weebles with the grinder, and then even though this is the bracket, so you can slice into that a little bit, it doesn't matter, but then you slip and you start nicking up the frame, and that's not what we want. We just want to be able to remove that rivet cleanly and effectively. The cutoff wheel allows us to be right against the bracketry and the bottom side, the shoulder of this rivet, and we'll be able to slice clean through, and it'll be flush with the bracket, and we don't have to worry about skipping off and hitting this and hitting that. You just put the cutoff wheel there against the bracket and the shoulder of the rivet, and you just let the thing eat, and it'll carry itself through. And then once we get all the rivets off, we'll come back with the grinder, flush it out to make sure we have the shoulders completely gone, and then we will drive this rivet through with our punch and baby sledge. So let's get to work on that. So you want to position yourself in the safest position that most of you feel comfortable with doing this. This is fairly dangerous, but it's easy. Just take your time, be patient. Don't force it, and don't force the tool into the rivets. You know, let the cutoff wheel do its own work. If you force it, you end up with a binding issue and then the kickback. You don't want that. Even with the PPE on, you don't want that. So just take your time, let the cutoff wheel do what it's supposed to do. It's gonna cut through there. As I said before, we're not in a race. This is not to see how fast we can take this apart and how fast we can build it. This is about doing it right, taking your time, and being safe about the whole damn thing. So we're gonna work right here, there's a rivet left right here. We're gonna knock this one off. So I'm gonna go through and I'm gonna cut all the rivets down, shave them off, then take the grinding wheel, flush it out, then we'll come behind that with the punch, drive them through. But we will not release the rivets until I get this on the asphalt, and I'll tell you about why when we get to that point. So let's get to cutting on this rivet here. And as I said, place the tool, then go to work. Now with the rivet ground flush, it's time to get out the grinder and grind back the rivet, get it flushed out to the bracket, and then we'll move on from there. All right, so we have all of the rivets that we're going to remove ground flush, and that's what you want to do. You want to get them ground flush down. So if you see right there, you can see the remnants. You see the circle, that's the rivet, and that's what it should look like. When you're done, you should be able to see that round pattern. Now you've got the shoulder and the head of the rivet off. So now you can do this two ways. You can use the air hammer, or you can even use the electric air hammer, or you can do it manually like I'm going to do, and I'm going to show you how to do it manually. And keep in mind, this is for people that don't have access to a bunch of tools. And if you're just starting out building, you know, tools are one of the main things you need to do all this stuff, but they can be quite expensive. So get a pair of vice grips, get your punch, and I've knocked these in just to get them started, because we don't want to knock them all out. We just want to get them loosened up till we get this thing over there on the asphalt. But you can see there, I have removed one, and that's what it'll look like when you drive it out. So yeah, you just get your baby sledge, your center punch, and of course you're using the vice grip so you don't hit your damn hands, because you got to whack these pretty hard to knock them through. And then you just drive them out just like that. All right, we had to change the tire. It's starting to get a little hot out here. But now it's time to get the AD over here on the asphalt so that we can continue on with breaking apart the leaf spring suspension on the front and rear of this truck. So I'm getting ready to get into that real quick, and then we're gonna go about knocking out the rivets and how to get this apart safely. Let's get to it. That looks good. Now, what we're gonna need is our jack, some decent jack stands, some heavier jack stands. We get underneath the chassis here, then we can commence with getting rid of these rivets and the suspension. So we're gonna grab jack stands, and we're gonna go to work. So at this point, all you wanna do is jack it up high enough to get the tires off, and then let it back down on the jack stands, placed in the proper locations. You want to put them right behind the original transmission cross member. Just right back there. There's enough area to get your jack stand, and you'll be on a good level surface of the frame. If you try to come in front of that, you'll be in the way of your leaf spring hanger that we're trying to remove, and you'll also be right up underneath the front part of this transmission cross member, which may pose a problem, especially if you got those polyurethane boots on top of your jack stands. I guess you could remove those, but then you still have that ledge right there that's made it to the frame. We don't want any obstructions. We don't want the truck to be uneven or anything like that once we go to beating on this thing. So put them behind the transmission cross member, and then you'll be right okay. How I like to get these front shackles off this truck is take the pry bar. Once you got the side rivets out of the frame, you can drive the pry bar down in there. You got your inner rivets grounded off inside here. Then you just simply take the pry bar and drive it down, and it should pull the shackle from the chassis. All right, so we're gonna work on getting the front leaf shackles off. I'm gonna show you how to do that real quick. All right, so all you're gonna be needing for this is the 9/16. We have loosened this already, so that's why I'm using this open end wrench. It was on there a little tighter than this, so of course you would use your impact or your ratchet, break this free. And it's a carriage bolt, so it's held on the other side, so the nut will come off without the bolt itself turning. So there's no need to have another tool on the opposite end, is what I'm getting at. All this stuff is relatively simple. This stuff is antiquated. You do it right, take your time, be safe. Taking the pry bar, get in behind there, you just gently pull this out. Look at that, comes right off. Now, in order to get this side off, take the pry bar, you get it there against the frame, and that comes off. It's that simple. Now, your whole front suspension is on the ground, and we are ready to move to the back side. Before we finish though, we are gonna take and cut the U-bolts off here to separate the leaves from this straight axle. That way it makes it easier to pick this up, put it in the back of the truck, get it hauled away for scrap. But before we do that, look at these. I mean, those are pretty cool. You know, I almost want to keep them to make something out of them. But anyway, let's get back to work. On the rear, here we are. The brackets and the rivets for these brackets have been ground down to nothing. You see we have our jack stand in place. The rear end itself is just kind of up in the air, and that's fine. It's gonna drop down, but that's all right. It's not gonna hurt anything. Just keep your feet out of the way, and you're just gonna pound these rivets out. There's one. There's two of them. There's three of them. Now, it does take a little bit more than that to pound those through. I'd already had them started. I just wanted to show you the procedure with doing it. You definitely want to put the punch in the vice grips and use this as your hand instead of your hand. If you're going to do it this way manually, you can also use the hammer drill to knock these out, but the air hammer. A lot of people will drill into the rivet, get it set, and then use the air hammer, or drill into the rivet after they've ground it flush and then use their punch. Either way works fine. It still takes the same amount of beating to get these out. The main thing behind that is just to make sure that you have the rivet head flush. So now, in order to drop this and make it come away from the bottom, because there's two rivets under here that we've already ground, we're gonna take the pry bar, stick in here, drive it down, kind of pry this out a little bit, but the weight of this will pull this out and should come over top of the rivets that we have shaved, so it won't give you any issues. Again, you're just going to want to make sure your feet's out of the way. I'm wearing a set of Red Wing steel toes because I'm not taking no chances. Just be careful and keep your feet out the way. And it's also a good idea that you have some type of safety glasses on, because you could get a shard of metal from striking the top of the pry bar. Just keep that in mind. Down in there, wiggle it, keep going, keep going.
Wow, Dad.
Yeah, it's down, huh? That's how it's done, bro. With our suspension completely disconnected from the chassis, it's now time to start making preparations to get the cab off of the chassis. We're gonna get the steering column out of here, and then we will remove the bolts from the mounting positions in the cab, and from there we'll lift the cab off get it on our dolly and get it in. As always, thank you for tuning in to this edition of So You Want to Build an AD. I'm going to leave you with a set of videos that I produced for my Instagram channel. And I hope you enjoy them, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. Be on the lookout for episode 4 of So You Want to Build an AD, powered by LS Fabrication. And once again, special thanks goes out to LS Fabrication, Joe's Racing Products, and Champion Cooling Systems. I'm Dennis for Patinacode, and this has been a pretty good day as far as getting all this stuff done. Thanks for watching. Stay with me.
What's up, everybody? I'm Dennis. Welcome to the Patinacode.
All right, you ready to knock this bushing out?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah. All right, let's get it. Look at that.
Oh, how did I even do that? I didn't even know.
You putting it in our junk bucket? Good job, bro. Good job. All right, now we gotta work on this one.
Okay.
All right. Remember, hit the punch. Don't hit Dad's hand.
All right.
There you go. Hit it harder. They're in there good. This is suspension component, so
We're good at working on trucks.
yeah, we are. We make a hell of a team. Now, your turn. I'm tired. It's your turn. You do it. I'm tired. Oh, hell, you got it, man. You got it.
Thanks for watching. Stay with me.